just some template. Fill in the blank template. If you're already working on it, just ignore it. I think they expanded the outline you gave. So just fill in parts as we go.
Ernesto, that write-up is already on that assignment. Write-up is looking at the Shakti write-up. It's already on there.
It was on.
Did you find it?
No, I couldn't find it. Lesson 12, the 5 major pranics.
I think it's on there already. If not, I'll email it before I leave to get it off my. Okay, today's lesson is spirit and soul, right?
Yeah. Let me go.
We're only doing 2, right? All right, so let's jump into this.
Any chance you get that number for you?
Oh, no, I give it to you before I leave. Remind me. Okay. Okay. Spirit. Over the next 12 weeks, we'll go through our 21 lessons of the metaphysics that builds the foundation of all metaphysics. And the first subject we're going to talk about this week is spirit and the soul, the spirit of man. When we say spirit, spirit is an aspect of the whole, which is the absolute. It is a divine spark of God, the all in all of the universe and more. So when we look at spirit, we realize that this is a part of the whole. You know, it is absolute. Of course, it's God. So, therefore, spirit cannot be defined. There's no way we can define spirit. There's absolutely no way. Because you can't define the absolute. To give a definition to it, you will only limit the whole concept or nature of it. So therefore, we can only give some type of brief description of spirit. We can only talk about the part of spirit or that we recognize and see. All right? Spirit has no beginning and no end. It's the only part of us that has no beginning and no end. Every other part of us has a beginning and an end. The spirit doesn't. Spirit has no beginning and no end because it never severed its connection with the absolute. It is a part of the absolute. It is the absolute. Therefore, spirit is unmanifested. spirit that we talk about within us is actually unmanifested. You know, it's that endless potential that we constantly pull on. It's that power, that life, that consciousness that we constantly pull on in order to express ourselves, in order to propel ourselves through evolution. That spirit. So, it's in order to truly understand spirit at our level of limited consciousness, we have to think in an abstract way. We can't think in the so-called logical fashion. We have to think in, or think in a metaphysical logical fashion. You can't think in a total basic physical logical way. Spirit is the source of all intelligence in a manifested state of the soul. So everything, I was once with a student of mine some 30 years ago. We had a long discussion because somewhere in his past metaphysical life, studying under some metaphysical group, told him that animals don't have souls. So it was all right to kill them. It was all right to do whatever we need for them because they really didn't have souls. And I told him, I said, how can that be? You know, that's not so. All life, even the air particles that we breathe, is, you know, has spirit and soul within it. So even the microorganisms, the bacteria that help keep us alive, is a living, breathing entity. So it must be so. So don't ever let someone lock you into that frame of mind. All things radiate from spirit, and all things have a soul. Okay? Because if it's in manifestation, that's the only way it gets into manifestation. It's through the soul. So don't fall into that frame of mind. Spirit is the source of all power as potential. Shakti and soul is the body of the manifested intelligence from spirit. So the intelligence of anything represents the soul, and the soul represents the spirit. Spirit is the source of all manifested creative power of the universe, with directed motion within the sea of universal mind. All of this arrived from spirit. And spirit is that power that gives life to all creation on all levels of existence. Spirit is the framework of the divine law, which is common. Spirit is the divine pressure that pushes all things manifested towards conformity to the framework of the laws, bringing all life back to the source, the spirit. See, our whole existence, soul it manifests itself in spirit, and it goes through an evolutional process in order to get to a point where it began to go through evolution. And it goes through evolution back to the source of which it came from. But the difference is when it goes back, it must go back as conscious gods. Okay? So all things in creation will go back to the source in a conscious state. In a conscious state of itself, which is God. Yeah.
So for our understanding of this, should we look at
spirit as in levels? I mean, like spirit absolute, spirit evolutional,
No.
divine spark.
Spirit is, you must look at it as spirit is the potential of all things. It's the power of all things. It's the unlimited power of all things. So it's always, in other words, it's the background of all things. It's just like scientists realize that in our environment, we have a background activity. What is that background activity? Anybody know? When they bring the Geiger counter out, what are they looking for? Radiation. Because all living things, it radiates, and it has this background radiation that will define the level of that manifested thing, whether it's a rock, whether it's a plant life, or human, or animal life, or human life. You know, it'll dictate the level of that life. But it's not the radiation itself. It's to play against the radiation. So that's the you know, so you can't look at it in manifestation. You have to look at it outside of manifestation. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
The evolution process, is that like going from a state of pure consciousness to the lower state of consciousness?
Yeah, we're going to get to that when we get to soul. It's spirit. The spirit produces the soul, and then the soul goes through the evolutional process in order to bring about the evolutional process. Okay. Yeah.
When you just said outside of manifestation, you mean outside of all the physical stuff that we see, touch, hear,
Yes.
smell, taste?
Yeah. The physical, the invisible physical worlds and the visible physical worlds.
Both of those are manifestation, or?
Both of those are manifestation.
So then question, what's the definition, or what's the meaning of Maya?
Maya is the illusion of the manifestation.
Okay, so the spirit itself can differentiate between that.
The spirit is far above that.
So it sees Maya for what it is.
Well, Maya is creation.
But the spirit sees the creation for what it is. So
Yeah,
being
the
part of
spirit
the
brings
absolute.
Maya into being, in other words.
Then isn't that kind of like fooling ourselves in a sense?
Huh?
Isn't that kind of like fooling ourselves?
Well, if you want to look at it like that, if you want to take man's physical definition for it.
Yeah.
In other words, spirit is the potential of everything. And but yet spirit is the only real thing in the whole universe. It is the only real thing. Everything else is not real. And in the Hindu and the Buddhist texts, it say that it's an illusion. Even the sun is not real. The galaxy is not real. All the galaxies, hundreds of millions of galaxies, is not real. The supreme laws of karma is actually not real. The supreme laws of creation is not real. The only thing that is real is the absolute,
It's the absolute.
which is spirit.
So that in a sense, in this sense, if somebody means you bodily harm, and then you defend yourself, and hopefully you don't take it to the extent that you have to take that person's life.
Mhm.
But if you do, I mean, if you have no other choice, say 5 or 6 people come and decide to do you bodily harm, you defend yourself and you take 1 or 2 of their lives, whatever. There's no remorse in that if you know that we are all part of the absolute, and they will eventually return to the absolute once they reach that conscious level.
It depends on your intent.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. But your intent is not meant, you're just going about your own business.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your intent. It really depends on it depends on a lot of things, but intent is one of the number one things.
So if your intent was not to do them, but it just happened, say one of them fell and cracked his skull, and then the others, decided to run off. there should be no remorse in that sense. I mean, if you understand what the spirit is and where it goes, where it comes from, eventually will go.
I mean, you should always remorse, but
yeah,
in a sense, your total intent, it depends on your intent, and then I mean, that's the trickiness of and we'll go into that when we go into the karma, the law of karma, because we have a whole weekend on the law of karma. But the thing is that what's good in one time and one specified time and event might be totally bad in another specified time and event. So it might be right to defend yourself to the death under the law of karma at one time of events, but absolutely wrong at another time of events. So it just depends on the circumstances around it.
You clarify it with the intent, because it's the same thing as your intent to give a poor man $1. It all depends on your intent.
Your intent, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. If you giving that poor man $1 to position himself so that he won't be poor anymore, and so that he can do for himself and move forward in life, that's good.
Or if you're doing it to make yourself feel good.
But if you're doing it to make yourself feel good with no thought whatsoever of his well-being, then the act is not really that great, you know? Or if you're giving him the $1 so that you can continue to enslave him, you know, the act is non and void. So it all depends on your intent. Okay? Therefore, spirit is great. Spirit is the great ancient power of Shiva. It is the great, endless, positive, negative, and neutral power of the universe in a state of unmanifested and manifested potential. So there again, I'm reinforcing the fact that spirit is totally unmanifested. Yet, all manifested power is a result or product of spirit, of the spirit. It is the power of all things.
Shiva is spirit.
Yeah. So spirit gives life through the process of involution and absorb life through the process of evolution. It, spirit, is the creator and destroyer of life. So it brings about creation and it dissolves creation back into it. That's a process that spirit operates, which they say Shiva. I know the popular people, they like to talk about Shiva as the great destroyer, but they forget to mention that Shiva is the great creator also. All right, that's where they confuse most people. And then it hinders a person's understanding, you know, when they move forward to seek a higher source or power, because they say, well, I don't want nothing to do with that Shiva because it just destroys things. It's just a great destroyer. But Shiva is the great creator, because Shiva is spirit. But it is the great destroyer. But how does it destroy? That's the question. And I just answered that earlier. Anyone remember what I said? How does it destroy?
Through transmuting, through evolution, through transmuting.
But what happens when you absorb back into the great Shiva?
You are in a conscious state of yourself.
You go back as conscious gods. See? You go back to the Godhead as conscious gods. You go back as, you know, as a great creator. You become yourself. You become spirit again. So you become the thing that produces the universes, that produces the galaxy. In your so-called Hindu or Buddhist dream state, when you manifest or think of a universe appears. The galaxies appears. you begin to become the great creator. Because why? You become conscious. You become a conscious creator. You become a conscious God. So that's the secret. That's the metaphysics behind the creator and destroyer. You go back to the Godhead as conscious gods. Okay? Yeah.
So in the 9 freedoms, where the AUM was changed from transmigration to transmutation, how is that different? How are those two words different in relation to?
I'll tell it to you in a simple way so you can understand. When we die, what happens to your body?
The body breaks down, but we still continue.
But what happens? What's the normal process that people do around here?
They bury it.
They bury it.
Or they embalm it and then
it deteriorates over what? Over hundreds of years, right? In the ground, right? Well, the proper way for that to happen, let's say you had a life experience and you know, now you finished to vacate this realm of existence and go to another realm. The proper way to do that will be at the point of your initiation to death, that you pull, that you take all the energy that made up your physical body and bring it into your auric body and move on to the next level. You transmute it to the next level, okay? And then therefore, you have transmuted all those actions, all the things that produce the actions for that life, you took it to, you transmuted it and you took it to another level. So therefore, you have cleansed yourself of a percentage of aspects of karma, of positive karma and negative karma. You moved it to a higher level so that you can take the thoughts and actions of that life to the next life in a better position. But what we do, we bury the body, right? And then when we die, our astral body goes away and it continues to decay itself. And it just causes a contamination on several different realms of existence. You understand? So, and that's because of our karmic position in life. Now, the proper way is to transmute that physical and astral source, pull it back within ourselves, and move on to the next realm of existence. So that's transmutation, all right? But because of the way we are right now, what we have to do, we have to go through all these different lives, right? And at one point, when we get to the ascendant level, we're told that before we can move on to the highest realm of our existence, we have to transmute all the negative stuff that we deposited on this earth. You get it? So think about this. Some scientists, they was doing a genealogy of Genghis Khan. Everybody know who Genghis Khan was. He's an evil person, right? And he's a great warrior. Controlled in Asia, controlled probably, I don't know what. They claim at one time he had the largest landmass kingdom ever, right? He probably ruled over 100 million people at one time in history, the largest of ever. And he was this great, beautiful black musician. He was evil, according to our history, right? So, but they did a genealogy on him and found out that 1 in every 200 people have his DNA tree. At least 16 million, almost 20 million people on Earth have his tree. So when Genghis Khan get ready to ascend, that's a lot of transmutation. you understand what I'm saying? So that's what the teachers in the 9 freedoms tell us, that we have to transmute all our past thoughts and actions in order to move to the next level, to make sure that, like in the Hindu and Buddhist texts, that we are pure consciousness, you know? So in most cases, most ascended masters, I don't know if that's the reason though, but we're also told that most ascended masters decide to do what? Stay here on earth in order to continue to help mankind. You know, so go back and study that chapter. You know, it's also in the Cosmic Voice too. That chapter on the AUM on transmutation. Okay. So did I kind of answer that?
And the same thing, we're copying Shiva, that destroyer aspect of Shiva in that respect.
Yes, it's the law. Any action that spirit makes in bringing about manifestation and sustaining manifestation is the law of karma, and it's something that we will repeat throughout our cycles of incarnation, either reincarnation or incarnation. We're going to continue to repeat. We're going to continue to use that law in nature in order to mold and shape matter. Okay? So that's just a law. Okay. Spirit gives life through the process of involution. I read that, right? Absorbs life through the process of evolution. Its spirit is the creator and the destroyer of life. Through spirit, Shiva, comes the first creative sound, Vak, which is Nata Shakti, that brings forth the creative Shakti power out of Shiva. Spirit has manifested potential to be shaped and molded into any and everything. So out of Shiva comes the Nata Shakti, which is sound, which is Vak. The Vak is the first spoken word. Nata Shakti becomes that force within Shakti that keeps things in a state of vibration, that keeps things in motion. Because you have this unlimited power, but you need to move this unlimited power out of a state of static potential. And sound, or nata, is that power that does that. And it manifests as Shakti. And Shakti Shakti is the manifested power of Shiva. And now you have the unmanifested and the manifested. So now creation starts. Now in all your Bibles, it say that God spoke the word. And that's what this is saying. That the Absolute spoke the word. And in the Hindu and the Buddhist teachings, we recognize that as Nata, which is supreme sound. Okay? And it is that thing that actually molds, it is sound that actually molds and shapes Shakti. Okay? This sound which actually mold and shape Shakti, okay?
Would you say that now there's a connection, like somewhat, it's still static in order to be able to mold and shape Shakti in whichever way possible?
No, it's not static because it's motion. It's the thing that brings about motion. So it can't be static, and it is within manifestation.
So it's the word that holds it together.
Well, I was, if you wanna, it's the configuration power. configuration power of the will of God. That's what, if you want to give Nata a greater definition, because it is that power that molds and shapes Shakti in what the Absolute want it to be. Okay? Because it moves forward and bring about creation. And that's the goal of the Spirit, to bring about creation. Now, also, Nata is also that the first presence of what? Huh?
Isn't it not to be like a supreme mind, like the highest mind?
It's the first presence of soul. Whether that soul be the lords of creation, you know, or whatever, but it's the first presence of soul. Because why? Because spirit cannot be what? Manifested. Okay. I'm not trying to go there, but I want you to understand that. But it must be the first presence of soul. Because why? The laws of creation must have a soul. The sun have a soul. The galaxy have a soul. You know? And it's that first level of soul. Okay?
That's like the supreme soul of all
Yeah.
creation?
It's the first level soul and supreme soul. You have a supreme soul. You have a soul that have never ever moved from its position since its creation. Because why? Why is that?
It's attached to the absolute.
It's attached to the absolute. So you have a soul that have never ever moved from its position. It lives on the highest realm it lives on the highest possible realm of existence. But what does it do? It takes from itself in order to bring about the evolution of life, of the thing you call life.
In the serpent power, it said that, I got confused on page 34, because it said that nada was before the first sound, yet it was the first motion.
It had to be before the first sound. Where did nada come from?
But isn't the first sound and the first
But
motion?
where did nada come from?
The spirit.
Okay. What is the theme? What is the unique thing about the spirit?
No beginning, no end.
No beginning, no end. No beginning, no end.
But isn't the first motion sound in a sense?
It's parasound. What is parasound? You got to go back. You got to remember all these things I done taught you over the years. Huh? What is parasound?
Soundless sound.
You got it. Parasound is sound. It is sound. Now, what is the nature of parasound? Where do we find this parasound at? Huh?
In silence.
What?
In silence.
Yeah, it had to come from like what you said, the Bindu and silence. And when we look at these, we think about what?
Spirit.
Spirit or Shiva. Right? When the Shakti power fall to the Muladhara chakra, it does what?
To the 3.5 knot.
But the 3.5 knot represents what?
Shiva.
It represents Shiva. See? And then from Shiva comes what? From the 3.5 knot comes what?
Kundalini.
Huh?
The seventh dimension.
It comes to parasound. Go back and study. It comes to parasound. It comes to unmanifested sound is produced. And then you begin to have the 4 levels of sound. And the 4 levels of sound is what? It's also the 4 levels of what? Of consciousness. And that is the power of Kundalini manifesting itself throughout the body. That's the celestial song of Kundalini. You ever heard of Kundalini have the celestial song? Or, you know, that's the celestial songs. And you have 4 levels. The first level is para. It's para sound. All right? Everybody understand so far? You don't understand?
So when does mind come in?
It's down the road. Remember, soul, spirit and soul is above what?
Mind.
It's above consciousness too. It's a product, mind is a product of it. Okay? Don't get wrapped. I mean, that's what limit man today, because he think he's wrapped into this brain and this mind and all this, and that's not the case. Huh?
Ready.
What?
Video's ready.
Okay.
But I saved everything not to close it when you started.
All right. So that's that's the thing that we have to look at. All right. Now we on the highest level. In order to truly understand metaphysics and truly unlock the secrets of metaphysics, you must understand these levels. If not, you'll go and read the ancient teachings and have no clue. You'll be like one of these academic type of people on television or on the university level telling you, great sounds of nothingness, which is, you won't truly understand it. So you have to understand it. All right? So, number 12, we're at number 12, right? From spirit comes perpetual creative power of the universe, which is Nata, the creative sound vibration that gives motion, substance, meaning, and life to all pervasive Shakti power. So God spoke the word, and this word vibrates throughout the universe, right? And it continues to create. Okay? So in the beginning we had the laws of creation, right? The laws of creation spoke the word, right? And then what happens?
Manifestation.
Huh?
Manifestation.
Manifestation. We had the laws of creation, speak the word, and then things begin to happen. Right? You have the galaxies come about. Right? And within the galaxies, you have the mighty suns. You have the supreme laws of karma come about in order to frame the motion of the mighty of the galaxies, right? Then you have all these mighty suns that produce planets, but all of them do what? What do? They speak the word. They release this great Nata power within them, right? So that's the power of Nata. Nata controls Shakti, and you have this happening on multiple levels. You have it happening on the invisible world and the invisible world, all at once. when they speak the word. Yeah.
So like when scientists, they say that the Big Bang is still exploding, like it's still churning out matter. That's similar to what this is talking about.
Yeah. That's the absolute. That's the absolute working through its manifestation. The laws of creation, the supreme laws of karma, the galactic lords, which is most likely the great galaxies that produce other galaxies, and then the central suns within those galaxies. So it's all being done by this Nata Shakti and the control of this Nata Shakti. I mean, it's not, I'm not confusing you, am I?
No, I'm just trying to tying everything together.
Right. So then we go to 13. From spirit is the universal Shakti power, the Shakti configuration principle of the universe. And we went over this many times, right? The wisdom that laced the universe, which is the Nani Yoga principle, or the Nani. 2, the universal mind that gives shape and molds, that gives shape and holds shape for Shakti. 3, the all-pervasive prana that powers the Shakti universe. 4, the power of preservation that preserves Shakti through its cycles of experience, which are the principles of Shakti power.
Isn't that nada? The preservation, the love, what did you say that's nada?
No, it's all of it's Nata and all of it's Shakti. See? Because it took Nata and Shakti to do what? Huh?
To create and to
To
maintain.
create it. So all of it's Nata. See? Now, one of the things in all creation, you need what?
Positive and negative, and neutral.
In order to do what? Create. Okay? So always think about that when we're talking about all these different things. Because that's what's happening constantly, just happening over and over and over and over and over again. 14. From spirit come the Shakti power wrapped in Nata, power of expression, and the principle / realms of Shakti that are the framework and boundaries of the karmic signatures of the universe. Okay? Is that self-explanatory? No, it's not.
Where?
It's not?
Shakti comes from the spirit, and it wraps itself in Nata.
This is the creation of the realms? That's what we're talking about?
The 4 principles, which I told y'all just over and over and over again. The 4 principles of what? The 4 principles of Shakti is what?
Mind, honor, love.
Yeah. Those are the principles of Shakti.
What were they again?
So those are realms of existence. Those are the realms of existence that frame anything that's in manifestation. Anything the manifestation uses what? The wisdom of God, right? The power of God, the universal mind of God, and this preservative power called love, which we live by the grace of God. How many of you heard that, right? So we live by the grace of God. That's the only thing that sustains anything in the whole universe. Because only thing God has to do is blink, in a sense, and everything moves out of manifestation. See? We are the product of God's imagination. All right? So if God takes us out of his out of its imagination, because God is not a he, then what happens? We cease to exist. In this state of existence, we are absorbed back into the whole. We're not individuals anymore. All right? You understand? So in other words, the four principles of Shakti is a product of the spirit that Shakti brought about in order to do what? The will of God. And really the Nata Shakti brought about in order to do what? The will of God, which is to bring about involution. We're still talking about involution. All right? You look confused, Ivan. You understand? All right. Huh? So let's say it again. The spirit, from spirit come the Shakti power, wrapped in Nata power. God spoke the word of expression, because the Nata power has what? The configuration power of the will of God, right? The Absolute wants to bring about creation. So the Nata power have these directives to bring about creation. It configured within the Nata power is the specifications for creation, okay? If we want to do something, if you want someone to do something, you do what? You give a set of directives to that person, right? God gave a set of directives to create a universe, to create all life. Within the Nata, within the voice of God, was the configuration power of creation. All right? That's the power of expression. And its principal realms of Shakti, because you had to frame, you had to put this creation in a frame. So the Nani, which is the configuration, right? The power necessary to bring about that configuration, right? The mind necessary to do the work, and then the power to preserve it throughout the duration of the work, all right? Or the creation.
So it was at this point that all the natural laws that govern the universe were kind
Came
of
into
spelled
being,
out.
was expressed. It was always into being, but it manifests itself on the physical plane. On the invisible and invisible, or the invisible and visible planes of existence, in our terminology, okay? Everybody kind of understand it now?
Mm-hmm.
From spirit come the Shakti power and its principles. And from that comes the cosmic elements of the universe. What is the cosmic elements of the universe? I didn't list it here. Huh?
Value,
What?
The air, the ether, the
Mahabhutas.
water.
Mahabhutas, right? Which is what? What's the Sanskrit terms? Y'all should know it by now. Come on.
Prana.
Akasa,
Akasa,
Vayu.
Apana, Vyana,
Vaya, what? No, that's not it.
Those are the prana.
Akasa, the Mahabhutas.
Akasa, Vayu,
Uh-huh.
Agni.
Agni,
Agni or
Fire.
TJ. Yeah.
the water, I don't remember the Sanskrit.
Apas
Tapas.
and what?
Tamas. No.
Praviti, right? Which is what? Earth, rose, solids. Okay? So we have, in English terms, is what? You should know that.
Ether, air, fire, water,
earth.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the Mahabhutas. Those are the cosmic elements of creation. And then the laws of creation have everything they need to move this creative force throughout the universe. All right? From spirit comes the karmic framework of the 7 dimensions. All right? These 7 dimensions are known as, who know it without looking at this?
There's 9 times, is that what it is?
It's will, mind,
Will,
motion, time,
height,
length.
breadth,
Yeah. Divine will imposes those conditions on the mind as directed motion in a time frame of breadth, height, and length, which are the 7 dimensions of creation. And this is just, you know, we did a couple classes on this, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you should know this, you know. And it's easy. I told you how to do it because you do it every day anyway.
You analyze
When you
anything.
judge a person.
When you judge a person, when you go and see something for the first time, you go through this anyway. So you got to look at it like that, and you'll remember. Spirit is unmanifested, static state of endless potential. That is the background power of all things in manifestation. Spirit is Bindu, within the manifested intelligence of all things. Spirit is I am of man, the OM, the OM. Spirit is the pure, soundless sound that radiates from the Bindu as Nata. Spirit is the all-potent, all-pervasive power being expressed as Shakti. Spirit is the I am, the unmanifested power of the soul. Spirit is that thing that manifests soul from pure potential as the I. Spirit is the endless potential of power that gives the directive to the soul to involve itself through countless experience cycles of evolution back to the source of pure potential. In closing, spirit is a creative power that exists in total unmanifested, impersonal, static state of endless potential with the capacity to feed all things in manifestation, intelligence, and sustainable life force. The creative power of Nata, that manifests the Shakti configuration of life and continually holds it in place. The all-pervasive Nata consciousness of Shakti power, which forms all around, and about the Bindu, a point of consciousness that holds the spiritual germ of life. 3, the driving power of all the manifested realms of existence that take us back to the unmanifested and personal static state of endless potential as conscious gods within the Godhead or Absolute. Okay, that's spirit. Any questions on that?
The Bindu says like spark of life force that every living thing has in it.
Yes, every living form has a Bindu. It is the all knowledge space within everything. It is the point of true consciousness within everything. It is the point where the soul is bathed in the light of the spirit.
When you gain true meditation is when you access that space.
It's when you access that space, that position.
That silence.
Within every chakra, is the Bindu. You have a Bindu within every chakra. And yet you have the Bindu throughout the whole body. But the access point is within the chakra itself. It's where the Bindu is.
Now, the seventh dimension of creation, that's not above or below any of none of these forces, like nada or none of that, because they all act within the framework of the seventh dimension of creation.
What do you mean by that?
Like the first, because you put it after, looking at physics, you put it after the cosmic elements, but that's irrelevant. The cosmic elements come into being through the principles of
I
seventh.
put it like that so you can understand it, because it had to have something to act on, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at the seven dimensions are stated in a way so that we can understand it. But there's much more. There's 7 dimensions time 1 million. If we go to the galactic lords of
How they operate.
yeah. So there's many. There could be 900,000 dimensions, but they work in a group of 7. In other words, but just so that we can understand it, you know, it's put that way. All right. It's just part of the law of karma. But you must understand that it needs to work on something. The 7 dimensions work on the physical plane. So it doesn't make sense to talk about the 7 dimensions at the point of nata. You understand? We already know that within nata is the 7 dimensions. Within nata is the law of karma. You know, nata is a configuration of the will of God. So what is God? God is law. What is law? Law is karma. Because why? The law, nata cannot operate without karma, because nata represents what? Movement, right? It represents movement. So what is karma? Action, right? So anything that moves within the framework of law. All right. So from nata on, karma exists, but we have to frame it so that you, I, and everyone can understand it. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
No.
Hmm.
Oh, you got it.
Okay.
What would an English translation for Shakti be?
What?
For Shakti?
Power.
Power?
It's power.
I heard Dr. Avalon use vital life force a lot.
Yeah, it is. Vital life force, same thing. Power. Okay, where are we? I'm a slow reader. Do y'all want to read this? Huh? Someone can read this if you want to read this. This what we have. This what we possibly have for.
That's what you gave me, right?
I don't know.
We're on page 3, the life of man and spirit.
Yeah.
I can read it.
Although I wrote it, it's hard for me to read it. Go ahead.
The brief meaning of spirit as the divine spark of God. This subject is probably the most difficult one to approach for most students and to comprehend because of the limited scope of our awareness and physical limitations to life. We live in a mortal physical state of mind, not allowing us to truly comprehend the complexity of our true nature, the spirit, a divine spark of God that dwells within and all around us and allows us to make our being through evolution to evolution. What is this thing called spirit? This has been expressed and defined in many different ways by all walks of life. The Yogic mystic believes that God is the absolute, the all in all, the life and source behind all things. It is all things and even more than that. Words cannot truly express or define the nature of this supreme power. Our feeble minds struggle to comprehend the greatest of the relationships to our divine source. Spirit is the name we give to that part of ourselves that never breaks the connection with the absolute, God. It is the real you, the only part of you that is not manifested or created. There is truly no real complete definition we can give to spirit because it defies perimeters of definition. Its true glory and magnificence cannot be captured in the imagination of man, in the speech or the written word of man. We can only attempt to give some brief, limited meaning to it. With our state of limited consciousness, we select and assign names to the infinite source in order to begin to grasp the ancient knowledge and secrets of the creative universe. The spirit is the real you, the source of all power. It's described as the point or spark from the absolute. This spirit, as the divine spark of God, becomes the source of Bindu, or point of consciousness, where everything originates from. It is the compaction point of all things, all power. The spirit, the no beginning and therefore no end. Spirit was never created, therefore it will never have an expiration date. Spirit is part of the endless static potential of the Absolute that has no beginning or ending. It is the everlasting source of pure intelligence and power. Spirit is unmanifested and timeless because it exists outside the limits of time. In fact, Spirit is the creator of time and the destroyer of time because Spirit is the creator of soul. It becomes that force that ushers in this thing called time. Creation represents movement, which is the product of that which describes manifestation. The Spirit never breaks or diminishes connection to the whole. The Spirit has a divine spark of God that is still connected to the whole and unmanifested in our sense of the manifested world. The Spirit never breaks its link with the Absolute. It stands as the Shiva aspect to manifest life. It is the only I am you will know, and yet it is not the I am because it is part of the whole that never separated from the Absolute. It, the Spirit, or I am, is the only God you will know. It is not God because it is only a fraction of God. Yet the Spirit is the only real you that you will ever know. May I continue? Spirit is the I am, the real self or divine spark of God. It is the all and all, the Absolute, or God, of you that never manifested but always is connected to that source. Therefore, Spirit is not matter, but Spirit is the static, endless potential of everything. This is the statement behind the answer given to Moses from a mighty aspect God through the burning bush when Moses asked, "Who should I say sent me?" And God, the lesser Lord of creation, said, "Tell them that I am that I am send you." The soul is the I aspect of yourself that is manifested from Spirit. The soul is the body of the Spirit that is manifested in etheric matter. The mental manifestation of creation is the expression of consciousness for the soul to gain experience. The physical manifestation of creation is the vehicle of expression for the soul to gain experience through. This subject of Spirit is generally misunderstood mainly because to truly understand it, you have to understand it in a framework of abstract thinking. Let me frame this subject in the following paragraph, although it really could take a book to give it proper respect. The spirit of man represents the God of man, which is the I am of man. Spirit is unmanifested, Spirit is infinite, and Spirit never had a beginning and will never have an end. Therefore, Spirit is untouchable, but omnipresent. Spirit is invisible, yet it is visible everywhere. Spirit is the background canvas for all creation, yet it is not manifested. Spirit is the all in all. It is the Absolute, the supreme being of all creation, yet it is Spirit. Therefore, Spirit is a collective consciousness of all life, but Spirit is even above consciousness. Consciousness defines the state of limitation, and Spirit is above limitation because it, Spirit, is that static, everlasting, endless potential that creation pulls on to manifest itself as limited consciousness in all shapes and forms. The Spirit, the power of creation. Spirit is the Absolute, the Shiva in Sanskrit terminology. It is the all in all. There is nothing outside of Spirit because it is. Spirit is undefinable. It cannot be described. The material physical plane is less than a speck within this presence of Spirit. The material world existence is hundreds of thousands of times less than a second in scope of and existence of the spirit. Therefore, spirit is not within man. Spirit is truly man's real self. It is the I am, not the physical I am, but the infinite source that the soul came from and will eventually be absorbed back into. The omnipresence of the spirit is all around us, not only within us, as I stated before. It is the background canvas of all life. Infinite is having no beginning and no end, because the divine law tells us that if there's a beginning, then there must be an end. The material world has a beginning, and therefore it will have an end. Therefore, existence cannot be contained or touched. Only briefly can we experience it in our state of existence. Spirit is infinite. There is no description of macro and microcosmic levels. It only serves to limit your perception of this subject. As I stated earlier, that you must think in a framework of mind that allows you to think abstract, yet with metaphysical logic. To understand the spirit, we must understand that we can only understand some faint concept of spirit, or the small aspect of God, the supreme absolute. Spirit is a divine spark of God that has involved a part of itself as a point of consciousness within man. This point of consciousness is the spirit of man's existence. Being in a state of unmanifested existence, it moves to manifest a part of itself as a point of consciousness on the highest level of manifestation within creation, which is the soul. In the forward movement of this involution, the unmanifested part of the spirit splits a part of its divine consciousness and creates a body for itself, one part unmanifested and the other manifested. The body of the spirit is recognized as the soul, as stated above. This soul is unmanifested and manifested just as the spirit, except for the spirit is never manifested because it is that thing behind all manifestation. The God principle within man is the I am, that part of man's existence that made man in its own image, which is the soul, which is the I of man. The spirit is a part of the absolute which is unmanifested because it is too vast and too pure to be touched or contained because it is all. So it creates a point of consciousness of itself as spirit that is unmanifested but is expressed through the soul that is unmanifested and manifested. The unmanifested part of the spirit and soul is untouchable, unseen, unheard, but it is the background and source of power for everything that is manifested. The manifested portion of the soul is far less than a fraction of the unmanifested existence. The spirit is that sacred flame within us and outside, and yet exists in neither place because it exists everywhere. It is the cause of our involution and the long journey of countless lives through evolution. The spirit as soul was the first aspect of man's creation, which is the highest possible aspect of creation, and will be the last to appear in the so-called full consciousness. It must be understood that spirit unmanifested or manifested has no need for consciousness because it is above this. In fact, it is the cause of consciousness. In fact, consciousness is a part of the process of involution and the tool for man's evolution. It is said that God spoke the word, and the word was God, and creation was formed. The word was a sonic vibration released from the absolute, God, which made its impression on the universal mind substance and the all-pervasive cosmic energy, prana. The word was God, because God is all, and all is God, for all things come from, and are contained and maintained by God. It is said that the first word spoken could only be an expression that gives a name to the one life, the absolute, God, and this word contained the expression of the will of God.
Any questions on that? So, I don't know, this is the outline. And you guys, when we're doing the curriculum, then you can, I don't know, you can kind of incorporate this back into this. Did I miss anything in the write-up?
when we do the practice of the presence and we visualize this golden sphere, is that supposed to be like the, I guess, like physical in a way representation of the spirit within man?
In a sense, but yet it's soul. You know, it's spirit, but yet it's soul. But it's a representation of spirit through soul. Okay? You had something?
Yeah, when you keep saying that spirit is a part of that understanding potential. Static you mean by absolutely no motion whatsoever?
No motion.
None. No vibration, no radiation, no...
It's above all of that. Yeah, it's all seeing, all knowing.
But is that static? All seeing and all knowing to me isn't static.
No, it is. Because it's undefined. Because it is the source of all things.
It's like the background that even allows for that to even happen.
Hmm?
It's like the background that even allows for motion.
Yeah.
And all those things even come into.
Yeah. In other words, without having stillness, you can't have motion.
But that's what I guess it's both though to me. I mean, at least for me, spirit it combines both static and dynamic.
Yeah, it is.
Both static and dynamic.
I say that in here.
Yeah, okay.
You cannot, because I say that it's the background of all things. You cannot have movement without having stillness. And so spirit is all things. And I keep saying that over and over and over.
Exactly. So you can't have stillness without having movement. So you can't really say static.
Well, it is because in the end, in the so-called end of motion, you have what? Stillness. But see, motion there was a beginning to motion, and there's an end to motion, but stillness is always there.
But stillness keeps that potential for motion.
Yes. Just like silence is always there. Stillness and silence is reality. You know, and out of stillness and silence comes a moment of action and sound. But the action and sound always go back to stillness and silence. The constant is stillness. See? I mean, stillness and silence is the constants. You know, so therefore, it is the potential of everything. It's just like it's just like anything on this whiteboard, right? You know, there's moments of action and movement, but it can only happen because why? The whiteboard is there. You know, so you know that's the total concept. That's the mystic concept of God. You know, that's why when the Western man got a hold to it, you know, they distorted it in their translations, saying that these people believe in nothingness. You know. But yet, when they get ready to do their scientific studies and laws, they go back and use the same nothingness in order to describe and in order to build and shape and mold things. Because why? Because they really recognize that this is it. You know, it's hard for us to accept this. And the only way you can accept it is through practice. You know, and when you begin to practice your these teachings through yoga, through concentration, contemplation, meditation, you'll have those mystical states that take you into this level where your consciousness is not limited and where you are aware of hundreds of thousands of millions of things all at once. And you feel the presence of the earth and the life on earth. You know, so that, you know, but yet you're totally still. You're totally in silence. I mean, there's total silence and stillness. And yet you're aware of everything around you. And then you begin to understand this. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
In that final evolutionary leap from manifestation to unmanifestation? How does
What you mean? From what?
where we return back to the absolute?
Mm-hmm.
How does that happen?
I mean, we only given bits and parts of it. I mean, the 9 freedoms kind of tell you. You studied the 9 freedoms, right?
I read it.
Huh?
I read it.
Well, go back and study it. It tells you we going on these, we go through this journey where we become conscious gods. And the 9 freedoms and the 12 blessings really tell you how you go back there. You become a planet, you become a sun, you become a solar system, you become a galaxy, or you become a dozen solar systems. I mean, we don't know, we truly don't know if our sun have 9, 20, or 100 other bodies that is operating as a sun. You understand? This one sun can have 100 different suns or bodies operate as a sun, and in other words, be 100 solar systems in one.
Being.
Huh?
And it's just one being.
And it's one being. It's just one being expressing itself. So, or it can have 9,000 suns expressing itself. And in those 9,000 suns, it have dozens of planets, hundreds of planets circling its body. When you really look, I mean, man give even the physical representation of this solar system, he give it a really bad picture, because when you count all the moons in this solar system, we have well over 100 some planets rotating around this one sun. But then think about it on a metaphysical level. This sun may have multiple bodies of expression. You can have 12 to 9,000 other bodies, and then have dozens or hundreds of planets circling each expression of itself.
But even in our solar system, we only perceive the physical. So
Yeah.
there could be even more planets
That's
in the
right.
higher realms.
It can be dozens and dozens, hundreds and hundreds of other invisible planets circling the sun as well.
They're just like a higher realm.
Just a higher realm of existence. Yes. So those are things you need to think about. I mean, and so those are life. I mean, we have to go through, and that's why this sun may live we may stay in existence for billions and billions and billions of life of years. And just like in the 9 freedoms they was talking about, there's thousands and thousands of lifetimes of difference between the Venusian and the Saturnarian. And Dr. King was saying God knows the lifetimes of the difference it is between Saturn and the Sun. So I mean, but that's your journey back to that God level, where you will become these great and mighty beings. And don't look at the physical part. Oh, I'm gonna be on the fire. No, don't look at the physical part, because it's intelligence. It's just the vast intelligence that is operating on.
Is everything alive to a certain extent? Like,
Everything.
Every rock, like the atoms contained inside that, have that ether, that space that holds it together,
Yes.
which is vibrating from the initial sound source.
Yeah.
So it's alive to a certain extent.
Everything is alive. Like I said, the air you breathe is alive, and it serves a purpose. Even if the formation of that air particle only live for a fraction of a second, or 10 seconds, or 12 seconds, it's alive. It lived a life, and now it's moving on to something else. Because energy does what? only transform. But in order for it to transform, it must have a life. So everything is alive. And that's why, that's why service is the ultimate, action that you can make. Because why? Because to serve someone else just push you to a different level, Because you look at everything in life is given of itself in order to allow something else to exist, Can I answer your question?
Yeah. So when Dr. King was talking about how they created a perfect vacuum of Gotha, and was saying that in that, I forget the exact words, but it absolute agreed to be the only thing within it. I don't understand.
What you mean you don't understand? In other words, it became Shushuna.
The point of consciousness.
Yeah. And the potential of everything. And yet nothing.
But it was within their grasp, like within their control.
Yeah.
I can't fathom that.
You understand that?
So
What does the bin do?
point of consciousness.
And within it is what? It's a perfect vacuum for what? The substance of God. Or Shushuna. It's the substance for the greatest manifested potential of God is within the Bindu and within the Shushuna. The only thing that flows in Shushuna is the conscious, controlled power of the spirit or the soul. Moving towards what? Moving towards the Bindu. And the Bindu is what? The all-knowledge space, which is connected to the God. It's where the soul is bathed in the light of the spirit. So it must be the perfect vacuum. The Bindu must be the perfect vacuum. The same way the sun is a God to us, right? Because why? Everything manifests from the sun. But yet, if we were to examine the sun, we could understand why it exists, right? We have to go back to the formation of chemicals and all of this, and trying to describe it, and then we have to talk about the subtle radiation that comes from it. And it's still not making any sense. What's the intelligent movement of it? You see, so but when we look at it on a metaphysical level, it makes sense when they say it's the great Bindu, is that great point of consciousness that brings forth the germ of life. It makes sense then.
What I don't understand is why the need to create it when it's already within you.
What you mean?
Like the purpose to create the perfect vacuum when it already exists within you, within the chakras, within the Bindu.
Because why? Because there's been an action of involution brought about.
No, but I mean the actual thing they created, when they say they created the perfect vacuum, I'm thinking it's not artificial because it's linked to God. It is God. God agreed to be the only thing within it. So it's not artificial in a sense, but they created it. They manifested a point of consciousness. Why would they do that when it's already within their own constitution?
I have no idea, but I understand the reason or the functioning of it. What?
They're confined by limitations, so it can't be to the same extent, right?
Or if they have the knowledge to create it, it must mean that they have the knowledge to access it.
Well, it's the same way we create things in order to better our lives. In order to heal us, in order to do all sorts of things. I'm sure it was something to bring about some type of energy source to bring about healing. So some type of, it's just something. I mean, we do all type of things. We got all type of machines that we use to burn up our hip. Let's push on because we want to get rid of this, right? Okay. The brief statement of the soul. Okay. The soul is the manifested intelligence of the spirit, a supreme, limited vehicle, manifested conscious awareness of the spirit as the soul. We can understand that. That's self-explanatory, right? The soul's intelligence is a direct product of spirit, therefore is aware of vast, unlimited power and knowledge of the spirit. And that's what gives the soul its great power. The soul is the highest manifested expression of the spirit within man. The soul is considered to be the manifested body of the spirit. This manifested body of the spirit, the soul, is indestructible. It came from the spirit, and it must be absorbed back into the spirit. Therefore, soul cannot die. It can only be absorbed back into the original source, the spirit. The soul's body is made of the highest manifested matter in the universe and remains on the highest realm of existence throughout the journey of involution and evolution. The soul, in its twin state of supreme existence, remains in a position of vast awareness and supreme power, creating all the moving parts of itself to make the journey through involution and evolution. Therefore, the soul is the I of man, and the spirit is the I am of man. That part that is forever connected to the absolute. The I and the I am never moves its position. It is the supreme part of ourselves. That is the creative power of the spirit as soul. It is the soul's positive and negative aspect in manifested creation. This twin soul state of existence is the one, a state of independence, and the two, a state of cooperation, which produce a state of expression of three. The one aspect of the soul is the state of power that is the Shiva effect of existence. It is a power that pulls on itself, independent power that generates from within. The second aspect of the soul is that aspect that never deviates from the law of karma. It is the supreme power of cooperation. These two aspects of the soul together produce a third aspect, the supreme power of expression. It moves forward throughout manifested creation, moving the embodied consciousness of the soul through evolution and evolution back to the creative source as a conscious aspect of soul, no longer embodied by the supreme expression. Everybody understands so far, right? Right? The spirit represents pure solace, a pure static state, which is an endless potential of power, and soul represents a pure creative sound vibration in constant motion with that power from spirit. The soul is charged with directives from the spirit to involve itself into subtle etheric matter and various layers of gross matter through the process of evolution in time frames of experience cycles.
So the soul is the Lord of creation, in a sense, the way it's being described.
Yeah.
So, is there a distinction at all between the soul of man and the soul of a son? I mean, the ultimate soul, but the ultimate soul is a Lord. We're talking about like the ultimate supreme soul.
Yeah, of course it is. But you have to go through the motions in order to tap into that highest level of soul.
Okay, so the soul we're explaining here is that ultimate supreme.
But we want to go to the individual, but in order to get to the individual, I have to tell you this so that you understand.
Just making a distinction.
Okay, we went over this. I don't know, maybe I can tap into your database. We went into this when we talked about creation. Maybe like a year or so ago, we talked about creation, and I talked about how each level had to divide itself in order to bring about the lower forms of so-called creation.
Yeah.
Okay? So even so, we're still bound to make the journey of evolution. Okay?
Is it this third aspect of soul that actually moves in evolution and evolution?
The third aspect of soul to do what?
That's what actually evolves.
Yeah, I mean that's the part that's in constant motion. In other words, in order to bring about anything, you needed a positive and a negative, right? But in order for the soul to be connected to the spirit, it had to do what? Assume the position of the spirit. You understand?
Those are those first two aspects. Those are those first.
Yeah.
Is that similar to, like, say, a third aspect would be the traveling aspect?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just a law. It's a law that just continues to happen. You know. So all of us are twin souls, right? And all of us being twin souls, we still have that. I mean, you know, we have that part of us that's ever connected, that becomes the witness to everything. See, now in Raja Yoga, it teaches you how to ascend to or aspire to become the witness again, so that you can recognize and tap into that great power that's you. You know, you can create that link and become connected to that power. And that's what that's all about. But there are stages to connecting to that power on a mental level. First on imagination, on an imagination level, then a mental level, and then you actually begin to go to that mental realm. Those levels of mental realms where you combine it into the reality of you, and you actually experience it. Okay? Where are we?
Number 14.
Next one.
The soul involved itself through fabricating a vehicle of consciousness out of the Shakti power, that it can place a part of its intelligence within as limited awareness into order, in order to evolve itself through experience cycles back to the original source. The soul being a concentrated stream of Shakti power into the influence. So the soul brings a concentrated stream of Shakti power into the influence of its of the soul's intelligent control, then the soul calibrates the Shakti power in order to have it enter the Brahmic line of force, the Sushumna, a region within the spinal column, which we know, a minute field of space, tremendous cosmic pressure on any and all things pass through it. This area of minute space conditions the Shakti power with the levels of consciousness of the universe through the major chakra configuration. As the soul moves this stream of Shakti power through Sushumna's Brahmanati, it conditions the flow of Shakti power into a field of consciousness that serves as a vehicle of consciousness for the soul. The soul moves this concentrated Shakti power that has been calibrated into a stream of consciousness through the soul's body of intelligence in a tight, field of Brahmic operation as it collects the configuration data of each major chakra from the crown chakra down to the base or root chakra.
That word's tight there or tight?
It should be tight.
Tight?
Yeah. I thought it changed, I guess it didn't. The soul then lodges the modified Shakti power of consciousness within the base chakra, where the pressures of this chakra drives the Shakti into a state of Kundalini, a dormant state of power. The soul then uses the Kundalini as a vehicle of consciousness by using the subtle sound vibrations and inhibiting power of the Kundalini to build several layers of consciousness that can in turn build several bodies of expression that move through evolution, gaining countless experiences, life after life.
Question. Is that verse supposed to be intern or intern?
Intern, I guess.
INTURN, right?
Yeah.
From 18 onward, we're talking about man.
Mm-hmm.
From 18 onward, we're talking about man.
Yeah. The whole thing is talking about man. That's why I didn't want to go to the cosmic level. But I have to switch back and forth so that you can understand the principles of it. But this whole thing is still talking about man. Okay? When you're talking about the spirit, it's still talking about man. But the spirit is connected to God. The spirit of man is God. But now we're talking about the soul. We can only talk about our level. We can't go to the level of the laws of creation. You understand?
Yeah. Because I was thinking of like Adamic man, for example.
No.
The soul didn't push it all the way down to the root for them.
Well, we still have to talk about us. We don't want to get into the history of it. Later on, we could tell the history. Right now, because this is the body in which we're functioning, when we get into the deeper yogas, then we can go and talk about that again. But for right now, we have to stay so that people can understand, because if we introduce that at an early age, you know, we're going to lose people. So let them understand this and that, let them understand the functioning of it, and then later you can introduce the history of why it's like that. All right? You agree?
Yeah.
The Shakti power of consciousness that is molded into Kundalini, a vehicle of consciousness for the soul, can now experience the 7-dimensional creation through this limited state of consciousness. The first and primary body of the soul is the auric unit, or body, which is a series of subtle magnetic fields that exist on the etheric, astral, and subtle gross physical levels. This auric field of substance is designed to hold patterns of consciousness for the soul. It has the ability to receive and transfer mental intelligence to the various aspects of consciousness within the auric fields of operation. Also, the auric magnetic fields are designed to hold in place signature patterns of various degrees of subtle vital energy in time cycles. It's also capable of receiving and transmitting patterns of subtle vital energy configuration as well. The auric body acts as the manifested pool of endless potential that the soul has set up to pull down the universal mind substance and Shakti power in order to modify it into vehicles of expression. Yeah, go ahead.
Could the aura be considered the fourth aspect of the soul? The auric unit?
The fourth aspect? You mean the auric body?
Yeah, auric unit.
There's a difference of the aura and the auric body. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say so.
Isn't that the highest body that we could operate?
Yeah. It's more of the third aspect than the fourth aspect. In other words, it's the seat of the soul. So it's more of that third aspect than the fourth aspect. Everything else can be considered the fourth aspect. They come after the auric body.
The etheric, astral, physical.
Yeah. If you want to put it in those categories. So any question?
So once you gain full control of like your soul management, or you're able to completely manage your soul, are you operating above the auric structure or more within the soul? Second aspect of it.
What you mean above the auric?
Like at which point do you transmute the auric structure and move above it?
Well, no, if you're going to be in this physical existence, whether you're on the etheric existence or the physical existence, you're going to work in the auric structure. You just vibrate, you just calibrate the auric structure to vibrate on different levels. Remember, the auric structure vibrates on all levels. It really vibrates above the conscious levels, but it vibrates on all levels. It's the unit in which the soul uses to move through incarnations or reincarnations. So it's that unit that's constantly moving from life to life to life to life. Now, of course, you can vibrate it the way it's described in the Sixth Freedom, where the young Indian, the 17 or 18-year-old Indian girl ascended, and everything was tore down and built back up, so that she can function on this super level state of consciousness, and never had to be reborn again. She was in her auric body. That can happen, but the auric body is forever there.
It only gets transformed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
The
cease.
lower aspects of it, yeah.
So
It
even
allows
the
it-
sun has an auric body. It's just on a whole different level.
no other questions?
You need to read the next part?
Hmm?
You need to read the next part?
Yeah, but it repeats itself, and that's what I'm looking at. On page 9, on the third paragraph, that's where it's not repeating itself. Well, the second paragraph, the second full paragraph.
Where it says the first and primary body,
No, after that.
the soul uses the power.
That's where it starts. It's not repeating itself.
So start reading there.
Yeah.
The soul uses the power of mantra to thrust man's consciousness on several realms of existence all at the same time. Mantra is an aspect of the Shakti power that expresses consciousness throughout all forms of life as the will of God to manifest evolution from involution. The science of Mantra Sastra teaches that within the human body is a sound body created by the soul by repeating an aspect of the original word released by God at the start of creation. This body of sound vibrations is the consciousness of man. It is the first layer or body of the soul. The sound body is the background power behind all bodily functions, subtle or gross. This is the meaning behind the Eastern ancient Indian chakra symbols that are represented as Sanskrit letters of various sounds that express several levels of the soul's manifested consciousness. The soul is the manifestation of the spoken word by spirit as the body of expression for the spirit. The soul repeated the spoken word, and over 100 points of the soul's consciousness expressed itself. These points are concentrated harmonic sonic signals that break themselves up into many sonic vibrational signals that mold and shape the cosmic energies into many parts. The many parts of cosmic energy carved by the sonic vibrations or voice of the soul projected it into several different realms of existence, from the most subtle to most gross. Therefore, mantra is the sacred creative language of the spirit and soul. The soul of man is repeating the Soham mantra 21,600 times daily. This happens unconsciously to us. It's one of the tools that the soul uses to sustain basic consciousness. You should repeat your Ishta mantra at least 21,600 times daily to correspond to the 21,600 natural Soham breaths that every living being takes in and exhales. Then the efficacy of the mantra is great. The mind will be purified quickly. It is said that this mantra is repeated by the soul throughout the life of each individual. It is also this mantra that keeps the physical breath and the subtle flow of pranic forces in motion, sustaining the life on the physical plane of existence for specific durations of time. The arrangement of the chakras is done by the soul, which is a direct expression of the spirit, a divine spark of God. After this arrangement of the chakras, the expressed life form, embodied behind these chakras, which is the soul, links themselves through thin lines of forces called the nadis. These nadis create a matrix of thin lines of forces that link the chakras, creating various levels of consciousness. Each chakra expresses the will of the spirit and a portion of the soul's consciousness. This nadic system is created by the soul's will to begin its journey through involution to evolution. The soul creates and sustains these nadic matrices through the use of a second mantra that is chanted repeatedly. The mantra repeated from the soul forms the nadis and then shapes the complex, intricate nadi matrix. This Shakti power brought about by the soul releases a sound vibration and moves to engross part of itself in order to build vehicles of expressions that the soul consciousness can work through. This is done through sonic vibrations that produce synchronizing frequencies that organize the mind substance and cosmic energies that move forward to manifest the human structure. The soul strictly follows the divine laws of karma, manipulating the karmic energies that are produced from our constant thought and actions. The soul produces the right amount of karmic limitations dictated by law and karmic pressures needed towards conformity. The soul of man works through the vortex centers, the chakras of the body. It expresses bits of consciousness of the soul. The bijas are actually the first layer of the embodied consciousness, jiva. The bijas of each chakra is the synchronizing Shakti consciousness of the chakra. In fact, it's only a part of the soul's manifested consciousness. There are about 108 chakras within the body of man between the major, minor, and minute chakras. The chakra system can be called a conscious splitting instrument of the soul. The soul uses it to involve itself into gross forms of manifested Shakti. Through the use of a series of calibrated sound vibrations, the soul forms the bodies of expression that it works through. Each chakra bija holds the essence of that particular vortex center, creating a whole realm of conscious existence. This ancient science describes the sound signatures that the soul uses to manifest the etheric structures, i.e., the etheric bodies, man's mental bodies, and subtle astral bodies. The nada forces that stream forward from the bindu as a point of consciousness of the soul. This nada is a pure, subtle, concentrated sound vibration released from the manifested point of consciousness from the soul that holds the signature sounds of the soul. The nada force comes from the soul through the bindu, expressing the chakra bija sound, which is the main seed mantra of the chakra, or the original sound produced through the chakra. This main seed mantra, bija, is a one-syllable mantra within the chakra. It is believed that this sound vibration radiates from the chakra's point of consciousness, the bindu, a spiritual germ from the spirit via the soul. Each chakra has this one-syllable seed mantra that radiates the sound signature of that seed mantra. The sound signature of the seed mantra of each chakra gives life to the chakra petals.
Any questions on that?
So the cities that you attain once you start being able to move this energy, it's really just giving you access to those bijas, right? And manipulating the energy, the petals in different ways, to grant you the cities and all that.
Yeah.
So when we contemplate, when we meditate, in a sense, it's kind of a deconstruction of what the soul and the spirit has constructed. We're trying to get back to the absolute. So it's kind of like a breakdown of all this framework, isn't it? When you sit there and you meditate.
Yeah, it's vibrating the embodied matter to a level where it can communicate with the embodied consciousness.
So all of the manifested stuff, we're trying to get rid of all that consciousness.
Well, yeah, we're trying to vibrate it to a higher level. So that, because, in other words, like what he was trying to talk about, if you go back into the ancient history of the chakras, right? It states that man's consciousness was at the soul level of conscious awareness, and it had to be, brought down to the base level of the base physical conscious level, which is in the base of the spine, because of his own wrong thoughts and actions, right? And at that point, the lower chakras was created, which is totally distorted with passion, envy, jealousy, and all these things. So that's the embodied consciousness. So in order to reach the higher levels of consciousness, we have to control all those things, or we have to transmute that lower matter or vibrate it to a higher level, so that we can begin to operate on the soul level again, and that's what it's all about. when you go into the deeper secret Upanishads, then you get into, that's where all the yogas come in order to help us do that. Yeah.
What is the Ishta mantra?
What it says, it's like a spirit mantra. It's a mantra. It's a mantra connected to self. In other words.
So it's your own personal mantra?
Yeah, it's the mantra of the soul, the higher self.
It corresponds to the soul.
In a sense, yeah. It's the mantra. It's a mantra connected to the soul. I get into that later. Because it's a series of things you have to know, you have to understand. That's where someone had mentioned it earlier. It has to do with Damas, Rajas, Sattvic.
Mm-hmm.
It has, in order for me to go into it, I have to go into that. Okay, but it's will, action, and something else. But it's a point of development. It's a point of really states of mind where you want to move your mind to the more solid level. And we talked about that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Is each letter in the Sanskrit alphabet a seed mantra or
yeah? It's a seed mantra. Each letter is a seed mantra. You didn't know that? Huh?
They all teach us that.
But I told you that over and over. How many times I said that? Huh? Yeah, I gave it to you, right? Yeah.
And
you
then,
should have a handout I gave to the class years ago. I gave it several times. They have that on it. But yes, it is. It's a seed mantra, which is a power. On the, all 50 letters are placed on the base chakra up to the Christ chakra. You'll find all the letters of Sanskrit on each chakra, and it's a power signature. It's actually the original samskaras. It's supposed to be the original samskaras from the soul. In other words, the samskara is brought about by thought or action, right? So the letter itself is an original action of the soul to manifest consciousness.
We want to bring that out. We want to bring that out.
You want to calibrate that power. You know, in other words, when you go into, when you get ready to practice the greater forms of yoga, you take a particular mantra and you place it on all the petals of the chakras. What are the petals of the chakras? You know what the petals of the chakras are? Huh? You just said it earlier.
seed.
The letters, yes. So you take the mantra and place it on each petal, right? And that helps calibrate the mantra, right? You know, because you are seeding and calibrating each chakra. So in your so-called meditation and chanting the mantra, you chant the mantra and you mentally and physically place that mantra energy on each chakra. And each letter brings about a meditation. When you can take the mantra and vibrate that petal, then you go into a deep meditation and you learn many things about that level of consciousness, because all 50 or 51 letters is a state of consciousness. Okay?
Is that a safe practice to do now, or?
No, you have to grow into that. You have to condition the body and mind in order to be able to do that.
So like when the Desiree said that she, you remember in her Ayurvedic class where she said she chanted the mantras in each chakra like 3 times in a row or something, and then she kind of went a little crazy. Is that what you what she was trying to do? Was that what you're explaining?
Well, it's a specific practice to do it. That's why she went a little crazy, because she didn't know what she was doing properly, or she wasn't given all the right tools in order to work with it. But in the basic forms, they teach you this. You know, in order to get into the deeper forms, I think even in the Serpent Power, they kind of mentioned this. And I think in the first couple of chapters, they mentioned the first 4 petals, and they mentioned the meditations of the first 4 petals that you must move beyond. You know, and in order to move to a depth shift, which is at least at the solar plexus level, they mentioned that not only the petals, but you must rule over 118 mental worlds or metaphysical worlds or realms, which are the 118 the combined Tavic rays of the sex and of the base and the sex chakra. There's 118 Tavic rays that create 118 worlds that you must conquer. In other words, they say.
So it's related to the petals.
That's related not only to the petals, but the Tavic rays that run through the petals. Okay. So if you go back and study that, that's what they're talking about. All right.
To be called an addict, you have to raise Kundalini to the solar plexus.
At least to the solar plexus. Yeah.
So here when it says the arrangement of the chakras is done by the soul, which is a direct expression of the spirit, of God. It's talking about the psychic centers that we use to access those realms. It's not talking about the realms themselves.
Say it again now.
Like, understand this line, the arrangement of the chakras is done by the soul.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the realms, but it's just the psychic centers in the body.
Yeah. How we tap into those realms of existence. You understand that?
Yeah.
So, in other words, we could have had a total different arrangement.
Yeah.
If we needed to comically express ourselves in a different way. As the Adamic man had a different arrangement than us. Okay.
How the animals are.
Now, the animals have a different arrangement than us. So, that's all the questions? Okay. So, this Saturday, right? We prepared?
I reserved the room.
Huh?
I reserved the room.
All right. Soap is good.
As a projector.
This is a room, right?
Yeah.
Remember, it's that back room, the GC offices.
We had a Zayt.
Oh, okay. That conference room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has screens, right?
Yeah, big screens.
Is it
Like
big?
30-inch monitors. Connected to it.
There's nice chairs.
All right, so let's close out.
He ran down there the very next day.
Now, Saturday we're doing 4 chapters.
Content.
All right?
You have a basic.
We're writing 4 chapters?
Yeah, that's what we said, right?
Yeah.